Ever imagine yourself, like, at 29, I mean, leading a crew of almost 100 men on a ship halfway across the world?
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing. And today we're diving deep into the life of Captain James Cook.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a man who rose from, like, really humble beginnings to become, this absolute legend. And his voyages, they reshaped our understanding of, well, the globe.
Yeah, what's captivating about Cook is like how his story really intertwines with kind of the spirit of the 18th century,
Yeah.
a time of just immense scientific curiosity, fierce imperial competition, and like this real thirst for, expanding the boundaries of knowledge.
Yeah.
We'll be focusing on his early life and the events leading up to his like groundbreaking first voyage into the Pacific. And we're using this great source, GLT 810-669-7435.mp3 from the Rest is History podcast.
You might be thinking another historical figure, another podcast, but Cook's story, I mean, it's anything but ordinary. We're talking about a man who, unlike the more privileged Admiral Nelson, started as, a farmer's son in Yorkshire.
Right.
Both became, naval heroes. But their journeys were, I mean, really strikingly different.
That's what makes Cook's story so compelling. It speaks to a time when social mobility, I mean, it was rare,
Yeah.
He could have easily, remained on that farm or been swallowed up by like the burgeoning factories of the Industrial Revolution. Yet something set him on a different course. There's an anecdote, maybe apocryphal, about a South Seas shilling
Right.
paid by a customer at the shop where Cook was an apprentice.
Yeah. He was supposedly, like, so mesmerized by this, exotic coin that he traded his own shilling just to possess it. It's like this foreshadowing of his destiny, don't you think?
Exactly. Whether the story's true or not,
Right.
it speaks to, like a yearning for adventure,
Yeah.
desire to explore what lies beyond, like the familiar horizon.
Yeah.
That same desire that would eventually lead him to the very South Seas, represented by that shilling.
Yeah. It's fascinating how, like, seemingly small events
Right.
can shape a person's life. And from that, shop counter, his path took a significant turn, leading him to work on, coal ships that sailed from Newcastle down to, like, the bustling port of London.
That experience was crucial in like honing the skills that would define his career.
Right.
Precise navigation, meticulous charting, like a deep understanding of the sea.
Yeah.
These were like essential skills in the 18th century, especially, with the global conflicts like the 7 Years' War raging on.
And as fate would have it, Cook found himself, I mean, right in the thick of it. He was given the challenging task of surveying the St. Lawrence River.
Yeah.
I mean, a task fraught with danger from, the harsh weather and
Sure.
potential attacks.
His work there was remarkable. Cook's charts of the St. Lawrence were, so detailed and accurate that they played a crucial role in the British capture of Quebec, cementing his reputation as a skilled and meticulous surveyor.
Yeah.
This meticulousness wasn't just about duty,
Right.
It reflected Cook's drive for precision and pushing the boundaries of, what was known. But what's interesting is how this earthly focus intersects with celestial wonders.
You're talking about the 1769 transit of Venus, right?
Yeah.
That's where the story takes, I mean, almost like an otherworldly turn. Picture this, okay?
Okay.
The planet Venus passing directly between the Earth and the Sun,
Right.
a tiny black dot against a blazing solar disk.
Precisely. For 18th century science, this event was monumental,
Yeah.
offering a rare opportunity to measure the solar system's size.
Wow.
Think about it. They were trying to understand, the very scale of the cosmos.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And the Royal Society, not wanting to be overshadowed by, rival European powers,
Right.
needed someone with, Cook's navigational prowess
Yep.
to lead an expedition to the South Pacific, the ideal location to observe this celestial phenomenon. I mean, national pride and scientific rivalry were at stake.
It was a chance for Britain to, showcase its scientific and naval capabilities on the world stage.
Yeah.
To prove its dominance in an era of exploration and discovery.
Right.
This wasn't just about observing a celestial event. It was about asserting national power and prestige.
So Cook embarks on the HMS Endeavour, a name seemingly chosen to reflect the grand ambitions of the mission. However, there was more to this voyage than met the eye, wasn't there?
Indeed. Alongside the scientific objective, there was a hidden agenda, the search for the legendary Terra Australis Incognita, the Great Southern Continent.
Right.
Think of it as like a geographical obsession fueled by the 18th century fascination with, symmetry and balance.
Yeah.
They believed that a massive undiscovered continent must exist in the southern hemisphere to like balance out the land masses in the north.
This belief wasn't based on, mere speculation, was it?
Not at all. Explorers like Captain Samuel Wallace, who had recently returned from a voyage to the Pacific,
Right.
claimed to have seen peaks topped by clouds, hinting at the possibility of this undiscovered continent. Adding to the fervor was Alexander Dalrymple, a prominent geographer who was like utterly convinced
Yeah.
of the southern continent's existence, and he had even hoped to captain the Endeavour himself.
Wow.
Yeah.
His ideas, even without, the captaincy, heavily influenced the expedition's goals. So Cook was tasked with, observing the transit of Venus, charting unknown waters, and if luck would have it,
Right.
claiming vast new territories for the British crown. I mean, it was a mission that intertwined scientific observation with imperial ambitions.
Absolutely. Exploration in this era was like rarely about pure discovery. It was often entangled with political and economic motives,
Yeah.
a quest for knowledge intertwined with a thirst for power and resources. Cook's Voyage perfectly embodies this complex interplay.
Now, picture yourself in Cook's shoes as he prepares for, this monumental voyage. You've got the crew, the supplies, and wait, who's that, like, flamboyant figure with all the trunks?
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that Joseph Banks, the renowned botanist?
Whoa, yeah. Isn't that Joseph Banks, the renowned botanist?
Banks is quite a character.
Oh, yeah.
Wealthy, eccentric, a bit of a showman. He was consumed by the natural world and determined to document every new species he could find.
Ah.
He assembled like a team of assistants, artists, and scientists, essentially forming an early scientific research team.
Wow.
His luggage was said to be worth twice as much as the Endeavour itself.
Imagine that. It speaks to the like changing nature of exploration, doesn't it? It's not just about like conquering the unknown anymore,
Right.
but meticulously studying and documenting it.
Precisely. Banks' presence highlights the shift towards like a more scientific and systematic approach to exploration.
Right. The Endeavour was becoming a floating laboratory, a symbol of the boundless ambition and scientific curiosity of the age. But let's not forget, the other passengers, a milk-providing goat that had already circumnavigated the globe, a rat-catching cat, and, of course, Banks's 2 dogs.
It must have been quite a scene. You've got sailors, scientists, artists, animals, and like enough provisions for a 3-year journey, all crammed onto a single ship. I mean, the Endeavour was like a microcosm of the world Cook was about to encounter. On August 26, 1768, amidst the cheers of the crowd and, the creaking of ropes, the Endeavour set sail from Plymouth, embarking on a journey that would, forever change the course of history.
However, as the familiar shores of England faded from view, Banks, the enthusiastic botanist,
Right.
found himself battling a rather unglamorous foe,
Oh, no.
seasickness.
Oh, poor Banks. But even seasickness couldn't dampen the excitement of, crossing the equator for the first time. There was a tradition of dunking first-timers in the sea, a ritual that could be avoided by paying a fine in alcohol.
Cook, ever the, disciplined captain, and Banks, perhaps still feeling a bit green, both chose to forfeit their grog rather than participate in the dunking.
I guess they missed an opportunity for some like nautical shenanigans.
So
From there, they continued south, stopping at Rio de Janeiro, where they were met with like suspicion from the Portuguese authorities.
it must have been a difficult situation
Yeah.
trying to explain, the complexities of observing the transit of Venus to officials more concerned with like protecting their colonial interests. It
Yeah.
highlights, the political landscape of the time. Cook's journey was unfolding against a backdrop of like global power struggles where every encounter, every interaction was shaped by, the dynamics of empire and colonialism.
And then there's that like chilling moment near Tierra del Fuego when a man was swept overboard, disappearing beneath the waves. I mean, the sheer terror of that event must have left a lasting impact on the crew.
Absolutely. It underscored the fragility of life at sea, fragility compounded by the fact that many sailors at that time, they couldn't swim. It's a somber reminder of the, risks these explorers faced,
Right.
risks they willingly embraced in the pursuit of knowledge and perhaps a touch of glory.
Speaking of Tierra del Fuego, they had their first encounter with, indigenous people there, the Fuegians. Now, at this like early stage of his journey, Cook's observations could be rather unrefined, let's say.
Right.
He found the Fuegians with their customs of covering themselves in seal oil,
Right.
rather uncivilized.
His initial judgments offer a glimpse into, the prevailing European mindset of the time.
Right.
A mindset that often viewed other cultures through the lens of, like, their own values and preconceptions.
It seems like Cook's journey wasn't just about, like, charting coastlines and observing stars. It was also a journey of, like, personal growth and evolving perspectives.
Exactly. What makes Cook's story so fascinating is that his views, like, would evolve
Right.
throughout his voyages. He would develop a greater appreciation for the diversity of human experience, a curiosity that transcended the limitations of his initial prejudices. But that transformation is a story for our next dive as we follow Cook's journey into the heart of the vast Pacific.
As we, delve deeper into Cook's first voyage,
Right.
we find him at the edge of the Pacific, a world, vastly different from anything he'd ever known. It makes you wonder, how did a man so focused on, like, the concrete details of charting and navigation, how did he adapt to the, complexities of encountering such diverse cultures?
It's a fascinating question, and one that Cook, grapples with throughout his journey. Their first major stop in the Pacific is Tahiti, a stark contrast to the, harsh landscapes of Tierra del Fuego. Lush vegetation, warm breezes, and the Tahitians themselves, who, shall we say, had a very different way of life than the British sailors were accustomed to.
Talk about a culture clash, right?
Yeah.
How did Cook, a man of his time with, certain preconceived notions, how did he approach these cultural differences?
What's interesting is that while his initial observations could be, judgmental, we see a, like, gradual shift in his perspective as he spends more time in Tahiti.
Okay.
He attempts to apply his Enlightenment framework, but it doesn't always fit. Take, for example, the Tahitians' openness about sexuality, something that shocked the, more reserved British crew.
It must have been, like, quite a challenge for Cook to reconcile his own values with, the realities of this new culture.
Precisely.
Right.
But rather than simply, dismissing the Tahitians as savages, Cook demonstrates a genuine curiosity about their beliefs, social structures, and way of life. He tries to understand these customs within their own, cultural context.
That's where Cook starts to, like, stand out from,
Yeah.
other explorers of the era, right? He's not just there to, like, conquer or claim. He's seeking to understand. And remember Banks.
Oh, yeah.
You must have been in his element, surrounded by, a wealth of new plant and animal species to document.
Absolutely. Banks thrives in this environment. He's constantly collecting specimens, sketching new species, and even forms a close friendship with a Tahitian chieftain.
Wow.
This relationship provides him with, like, invaluable insights into Tahitian society,
Right.
going beyond, superficial observations to understand the complexities of their culture.
It's fascinating how, like, personal relationships can bridge cultural divides and foster, deeper understanding. But amidst all this cultural exploration, let's not forget, the main reason for the expedition,
Right.
the transit of Venus. Did they succeed in their observation?
They did. In a remarkable feat of planning and navigation, Cook and his team successfully observed the transit of Venus, collecting valuable data that would contribute to, the scientific understanding of the solar system.
Yeah.
It was a triumph for the expedition and for the Royal Society, back in London.
It's amazing to think about the dedication and precision required to, like, travel halfway around the world and achieve, like, such a specific, scientific objective.
Yeah.
But the adventure doesn't end there, does it? They still had that hidden agenda to pursue the search for the Great Southern Continent.
Indeed. With the transit of Venus successfully observed, Cook sets his sights south, venturing into the vast uncharted waters of the Pacific, driven by a mix of, scientific curiosity and imperial ambition. This is where, like, the real exploration begins.
What were some of the, challenges they faced as they sailed into, well, the unknown?
Their journey was, fraught with danger.
Yeah.
They faced violent storms, navigated treacherous reefs, and encountered islands that had never been, seen by European eyes before.
Right.
It was a, like, true voyage of discovery,
Yeah.
testing their, courage and resilience.
And it wasn't just about charting coastlines and, collecting specimens, was it?
No.
They were constantly encountering indigenous populations. The Maori in New Zealand, the Aboriginal peoples in Australia, each encounter, must have presented unique challenges and, opportunities.
Absolutely. These encounters were crucial in shaping Cook's perspective and pushing him to reevaluate his own, understanding of the world. Take their arrival in New Zealand, for example.
Yeah.
The Maori, with their elaborate tattoos and warrior culture,
Right.
were initially wary of these newcomers.
It's easy to imagine, the tension and uncertainty on both sides
Right.
as these two, vastly different cultures collided. How did Cook approach these, initial interactions?
He had to tread carefully, balancing the demands of his crew, the scientific goals of the expedition, and the complexities of navigating these delicate cultural exchanges. He employed a mix of diplomacy and firmness, striving to establish peaceful relations while also asserting his authority.
Right.
However, misunderstandings and clashes were, inevitable.
It's a reminder that even with, the best intentions, cultural differences can lead to conflict and miscommunication.
Yeah.
Did Cook's attitude towards the Maori, evolve over time?
It did. He gradually developed a grudging respect for the Maori, recognizing their strength, intelligence, and deep connection to their land. His journals reflect a growing appreciation for their culture, even though he didn't always, fully understand or agree with their customs.
It's interesting to see how his perspective shifted as he interacted with, different cultures.
Yeah.
And then comes their arrival in Australia, a continent that would, forever be linked to Cook's name.
Their landing in Australia was a pivotal moment, both for Cook and for the future of the continent. They arrived on the southeastern coast, a place they named Botany Bay,
Right.
due to the abundance of plant life. However, their arrival wasn't, exactly greeted with open arms by the Aboriginal people who had called this land home for, tens of thousands of years.
I imagine the Aboriginal people were, understandably wary of these strange newcomers arriving on their shores.
Yeah.
How did they respond to, Cook's landing?
Their reactions were varied.
Yeah.
Some were curious, others suspicious, and some reacted with hostility. They had their own, complex social structures, spiritual beliefs, and ways of life that were vastly different from anything the Europeans had encountered before.
It must have been a challenging situation for Cook, trying to establish, a presence in a land where he and his crew were, clearly outsiders.
Absolutely. There were tense standoffs, misunderstandings about, resources and territory, and occasional outbreaks of violence. It was a stark reminder that exploration, for all its potential benefits, could also be a source of conflict and disruption.
It's a complex and often uncomfortable truth that, exploration and colonialism are often, intertwined. Did Cook's experiences in Australia change his views on, the relationship between different cultures?
They certainly deepened his understanding of the complexities of cross-cultural interaction.
Right.
While he strived to be, fair and just in his dealings with the Aboriginal people, he was ultimately a representative of a powerful empire, an empire that would eventually claim this land as its own. His journals reflect a growing awareness of the potential consequences of European expansion, both positive and negative.
It's a reminder that history is, rarely black and white. There are heroes and villains, but also those who are, caught in between, trying to navigate a world in flux, a world where different cultures, different values, and different ways of life are, colliding.
Yeah.
As Cook continues his voyage north along the eastern coast of Australia, charting this new land, he carries with him not just, the knowledge he's gained, but also, the burden of understanding, a burden that will continue to weigh on him as he journeys across the vast Pacific. So we left Cook charting that eastern coast of Australia. And that journey, it wasn't without its perils. They had a near-death experience right on the Great Barrier Reef.
Oh, yeah. Imagine the sheer terror of being, aboard the Endeavour as it ran aground on that jagged coral.
Yeah, they could have lost everything.
It was a testament to Cook's, skill as a seaman and his crew's resilience that they managed to, save the ship.
They spent weeks repairing the Endeavour, right? All the while, supplies are dwindling, and, that vastness of the Pacific, it must have felt incredibly daunting.
Absolutely, and yet Cook persevered. He had this, remarkable ability to remain calm and focused in the face of adversity. It's that Yorkshire grit we talked about, that unwavering determination to complete the mission.
And completed he did. They patched up the Endeavour and eventually charted the entire eastern coast of Australia, a feat that, well, it changed the map of the world forever.
Cook's meticulous observations weren't, limited to geography.
Right.
His journals are, filled with detailed descriptions of the flora and fauna, the customs of the Aboriginal people, and even like reflections on the potential for future colonization.
Mhm.
His work would pave the way for, the eventual settlement of Australia by the British.
It's a complicated legacy, isn't it? On one hand, his explorations open up incredible possibilities. On the other, they set in motion events that would have, I mean, devastating consequences for the indigenous inhabitants.
Exploration, for all its wonders, often carries a double-edged sword. It can lead to, scientific progress and cultural exchange,
Yeah.
but it can also be a tool of exploitation and displacement.
It's a reminder that we must, like, critically examine the past,
Yeah.
acknowledging both the, triumphs and the tragedies that have shaped our world.
Indeed. History is, rarely simple. It's a tapestry woven with threads of ambition, curiosity, conflict, and consequence.
After Australia, Cook didn't stop exploring. He ventured further across the Pacific, exploring islands like New Guinea and charting the coast of New Zealand's South Island.
His voyages, they transformed him. He returned to England, a seasoned explorer, a respected scientist, and a leader who had witnessed, firsthand the incredible diversity of human cultures.
He went from a meticulous surveyor to, a global icon, a symbol of the age of exploration.
Yeah.
It seems he never forgot his, humble beginnings.
That's what makes his story so enduring. Cook embodies the spirit of, striving for something beyond what you were born into, pushing the boundaries of knowledge and leaving a, lasting mark on the world.
So as we conclude our deep dive into, the extraordinary life of Captain James Cook, I'm left with a sense of, awe at his accomplishments and a deeper understanding of the complex legacy of exploration.
Cook's story challenges us to, think about the motivations behind our own, explorations, both personal and societal.
What drives us to seek the unknown? Is it the thirst for knowledge, the desire for glory, or perhaps a deeper yearning to connect with something, larger than ourselves?
These are questions worth pondering as we reflect on the impact individuals can have on, well, the course of history.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you've gained a new appreciation for the remarkable life and enduring legacy of Captain James Cook.